You're listening to Neurodivergent Mates. Hello and welcome to another episode of Neurodivergent Mates. I'm your host, Will Wheeler, and today I'm joined with my good friend, Vicky Little. Vicky, what's going on, my friend?
Hey, Will. Thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
Yeah, no problem at all. No problem. Obviously, we're a few weeks late. We were supposed to come on a few weeks ago, but unfortunately, Vicky was unwell. But are you feeling better now? That's the main.
I am. I'm so sorry about that. Yes. Yeah.
No. All cool. These things happen. You're looking well.
Thank you. I have kids, and so you regularly pick up the the lurgies that go around. So.
Yeah, crazy. But no, all good. But look, really cool stuff that we're going to be covering today. So we're going to be talking about redefining work and neurodiversity's evolution. I think especially when you and I have sat down in the past, Vicky, you've been doing this longer than me. You're like one of the pioneers right here, right? And but I think it's interesting when I sat down with you last, and you did speak about how so many things have changed, how you were talking to a lot of people in the past there who had really no idea about what neurodiversity is and all of that. But now, we're really at a place where it's just completely changing and evolving, which is good. But it is definitely interesting to see all the stuff there. But look, before we do get into things, I might just do a bit of a shout out for anyone who hasn't listened to us before. So if you haven't already done so, please subscribe, like, and follow to all of our social media pages. We're available on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, X, Twitch, YouTube, and LinkedIn. And also, too, you can subscribe to us, rate us, do whatever you want to do on anywhere you listen to your podcast. Another big shout out to Neurodiversity Academy. If you want to check us out, go to neurodiversityacademy.com. We've got some really cool stuff happening there. Subscribe to our emailing list. And honestly, there's going to be some really cool stuff coming out there shortly. So please don't miss out. But I'll do a little bit of a warning like I always do. Look, some discussions may be triggering. If you need help, please reach out to a loved one or call emergency services. We are not doctors. This is a space for sharing experiences and strategies. Now, last of all, if you do have some questions, please, if you're watching this through the live version of the podcast, just put them into the comments if you're on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, wherever you're at, and we should be able to answer them. What do you reckon, Vicky? You ready to rock and roll, my friend?
Ready to rock and roll. Let's do it.
You're born ready, All right. Cool. So let's get stuck into this. The first and always the one I always go on about. So look, share us a little bit about yourself.
Great. Yeah. So look, I think it's best sort of spoken about from the perspective of my career and the journey and what's taken me in this space, and what, that will lead into sort of what I've seen so far. And so I guess I started my career, I studied psychology at university, and from that I was really knowing that I wanted to work with people who, were experiencing significant barriers, in all walks of life. I worked with young autistic kids at the time, and that kind of then led into opened my eyes. And so I was in the UK. I moved to the UK after I finished studying, and it was there that I was sort of really connected with, okay, so there's something that needs to be done here in terms of supporting autistic people to move into the world of work where they're valued and they're seen and their strengths are identified. And so I started working. I was lucky enough to get a job working at the National Autistic Society.
Sorry to cut you off. What year was that around? Just out of curiosity, so people have a bit of perspective of like, whoa, that's changed a hell of a lot.
Thank you. It's a good point. Thank you. And please do interrupt if I miss details like that. That's helpful.
No, it's all good.
It was 2006. So we're coming up to sort of 19 years ago. And so I was lucky to get this job at the National Autistic Society. It was called Prospects, which is their employment service. So you can imagine, 2006, where things were at. We would, very much about transitioning to employment, helping job seekers find work, training employers. And I remember literally having to cold call employers and tell them what autism is, and that it is not just a childhood condition, it is, across the lifespan. So that was the level of understanding that we were sort of, tackling at that time. But it was a really exciting time in the space because we did see, the movement started to take hold. So we started to work with big organizations like Goldman Sachs and BT and other, massive organizations that started to see the value that autistic individuals can bring to the workplace. And so that was the start of those sorts of big form recruitment programs, I suppose. And it was a really exciting time. It was just an amazing job, amazing team. There's still lots of people, that I worked with then that are doing amazing work in this space. So it was really pivotal. And then I returned to Australia after 5 years in the UK.
Wow, crazy.
And what was interesting is that I noticed that we were kind of behind here in Australia. So we'd made all this progress in London, and we, I returned to kind of back to where we started when I first started working in 2006 in London. So I kind of had to, once again, take people on the journey of understanding that autism is a lifelong condition. We've got talented individuals who are not able to access work, not able to, use.
Sorry, can I just ask something on that, right? So just out of curiosity, when you're calling people and explaining, about autism, for example, what was some of the responses you got? Because like you said, you were having to explain some of that stuff and you're even talking to us, you're like, no, it's not just the childhood condition. Mm-hmm. What was some of the responses that you got? Just out of curiosity, if you want to share that.
It's a great question because obviously everyone would be different. Some people, and a common one was, oh yeah, I have a, insert relation here, niece, nephew, sister, brother, whatever, who is autistic, but they're nonverbal, so we can't hire, so the misconception and the stereotypes was just, terrible, to be honest, because people were thinking that every
it's this one thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so the stereotypes, which we still are challenged by today, were even more of a barrier back then, as we know, which is why we do what we do. But some people, it would click and they'd be like, oh yeah, this is really, I want to give somebody a go. And then it was by giving somebody a go that then obviously their mindset would change, and then they would see the talent and see what this was about and what we're trying to do here. So it really varied.
Wow, crazy. But what was it? Oh, sorry, you go.
No, you had a question. Go.
Oh, well, no, but I'm really bad. I sometimes just throw things in because, I don't know, it just changes it up. But, coming back to Australia after being in, I suppose, the UK for so long, and often, I think within the neurodiversity community, we often look at the UK as the leaders in this field type of thing. What was that like coming back to Australia and then coming back to almost probably close to nothing in place at that point of time?
Look, it was it just became quite clear that I needed to do something because there was just nothing. And it was really, I literally got back and I just emailed everyone who was doing anything in this space to see what they're doing, to see how we can work together. And I set up my own business. And so similar to you, Will, I had another job. I was working in disability services at Sydney University. That was a 3-day-a-week job. And for the rest of my time, as you do, I was running my own business. So I was mentoring job seekers to find work. I was training employers because it just didn't exist. And so it was, it was real advocacy work. It was really important that it happened, and it was connecting with everyone in the space and really starting the conversation and bringing what we'd done from the UK to Australia, because, as you say, they were we were leading the way in a lot of ways, and it was, it was really exciting to see what we could do once we started that conversation. It was slow, obviously, and we're still, moving at different paces, but I can definitely attest to, things started to change in that space. We could see the employers start to go, oh, okay, this is really awesome. But then what happened with that business is then I went and worked at Autism Spectrum Australia at Aspect, and built their employment service there, which was really exciting. So that business then became the grounds of what was Aspect's employment service. So that was really exciting. That had never been done before. That was the first time they'd supported in the employment space. And so then obviously that gave us way more kind of capacity to reach employers and get funding and to, to really make change because of it. For those who don't know, Aspect is one of the, the leading, I suppose,
autism. I never realized until because we've got one of our advisory members, Katie Fleet, is on our advisory board, and I never realized Aspect is like a school.
Yes,
they have schools.
Yes, so Aspect is well known for its education side of things. Incredible schools that they run, but they just never moved into much of adult space beyond community services, and so this was a really exciting time. So I did that for a few years, and then moved across to Specialisterne, and I've been working for Specialisterne now for
looking back
7 or 8 years. Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
wow, there you go. Hey, so I just want to step in for a sec. So we've got Carlos Rodriguez. So Carlos has actually been on the show before, and he's a regular here. Carlos, how's it going, my friend? Awesome to hear from you. Now, he just wanted to ask, the US is even further behind. Why, in your opinion? Hopefully that's not you might see it from a different opinion and go, well, actually, no, they're not. They're actually doing some great stuff. I don't know.
This is a big question, obviously topical right now, so we won't get into politics, but we will just reflect on the question in general. So Specialisterne has an office in North America, both in the States and in Canada. And, we really see some large organizations doing some really great things. But, and obviously on the flip side, we still see those same sort of challenges due to perhaps budget or, internal challenges to try and get, approvals over the line. And also I think, obviously not speaking from experience for living in America, but what I do know is that each state is so it's almost like a different country, right? In each, I mean, you can answer that.
It's almost similar to here, right?
Well, yeah, in some ways, but even more disparate, I think. Each state has just such separate ways of working, and it's hard for them to, anyway. So I think that's what's spoken about as one of the challenges. But also globally, in every country, it's lack of understanding, lack of awareness from both organizational level and, at a manager level. So we see that across all countries, and that's what we're trying to tackle.
Nah, cool. So, moving on from that, what's your experience like? So, when we caught up, a while ago there, we were speaking about a little bit of your journey so far. And you were sharing with us that you received, you've recently been diagnosed with ADHD. And, you even said to yourself, you're like, I was so surprised, or why didn't I pick up on this earlier, especially working in this space, all of that. Mm-hmm. So, what's your experience been like receiving a late diagnosis, and how has it shaped you?
Great question. So, yes, it's been a really interesting process. I'd say, we're reflecting on the fact that I've been working in this space for coming up to 19 years or so. And I'd say it's been in the last 5 years or so that it's really kind of unraveled for me in terms of understanding that I have ADHD. And if you think about what was happening 5 years ago, which is scary to think actually, but this was COVID, 2020. And so
I know that's 5 years ago. It blows my mind.
Isn't it?
I know, man. It feels like it was just yesterday.
Yeah, I know. And so, look, I think for a lot of women in particular, we have systems in place, and we may not know we have them, but they're coping mechanisms, they're routine, they're to-do lists, they're there's this concept of body doubling, which I knew about, but I didn't know that I was needing that, which is basically that when you're spending time or there's other people around you, you're more likely to be able to initiate tasks or move through procrastination challenges, or to get something done. And so we have all those systems in place, and then COVID lockdowns meant that all of us, that was all, it all fell away. So I think we're all put in this place of, oh my gosh, now I have to, reinvent myself and find out how to cope. And a lot of awareness was raised during that time because a lot of adults was, starting to unravel and realize that they have ADHD themselves. And like I said, that's for a lot of women, I think. And so for me, I think I can now see that on reflection with the diagnosis that many of the traits that I thought was just part of my personality is actually signs of ADHD. So I've always been honest and outspoken, and that's made me a strong advocate. My brain is always feels like there's a million tabs open, and I think that's just the best way to describe it. And it's why I appear distracted, because of all the, the busy brain. I have a home full of doom piles, and that's just unfinished tasks and unfinished projects. But this is all, hidden stuff. People aren't seeing this, right? So obviously, for me, I struggle with attention to detail, which is not true for a lot of for some ADHDs, but for me.
So do you like miss like little things? Say you'll send an email and then you'll be like, oh my God, I didn't realize that I had this spelling mistake there. I've read it twice. And it's still wrong, you and me the same.
Mostly in big pieces of work, like not, small things, but there's just, who's got time for that? And, I'm in jest, but like my brain is just, let's move on to the next thing. Whereas a lot of people thrive in moving through methodically and reading the detail and making sure that it's correct. And this is where teamwork is so important. I've got amazing team members who have outstanding attention to detail. So I lean on them for help with that. I have experienced overwhelm and burnout. We were speaking about this before, and I think, I didn't realize that was part of it. I just thought that was part of me, but that's definitely a common sign, I suppose, of ADHD, or a symptom. And I
think it's just for all of our listeners. So before we did come on, like we always come on like 15 minutes early to talk about just to make sure everything's working. But what we were talking about was that, especially for myself, let's say I get off this podcast here afterwards and I go sit on the couch and watch Netflix. For me, in my head, I'm thinking, man, I'm lazy. I need to be doing something, man. Everyone's going to think I'm a slob. You know what I mean? Yeah. Is that what you were sort of going through? Like, man, I need, or what I've also found as well is that when I don't have that work there or something to occupy me, I do struggle with my depression and stuff like that. I'm like I need something to distract me.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I think everyone's different. I definitely think I used to be like that, Will. Like I definitely used to be just all go, like, thinking about that, owning a business and having another job and the push to make change here in Australia, that, I definitely experienced burnout, and the doctors called it adrenal fatigue. But, it was just me burning out. It was nice, to have a label, I suppose, but actually in hindsight now it was ADHD. And I've actually had to learn as a result. So one of my strategies now is making sure that I have downtime. So, whatever that looks like for each person is different. But for me, it's just making sure that I schedule that in, because if I don't, then, I will just continue.
Well, I'll go for a ride. So I've got like another meeting after this, but I'll probably go for a ride on my bike like afterwards type of thing. And I think that sort of winds me down type of thing.
That's it. There you go. Like everyone's different. And I think that's, and that's a really healthy way actually to manage that. So
well, but what about eating? Like I know that I used to struggle a lot with because I'd be like so busy and I'm like, oh my God, I haven't even made dinner. Stuff at McDonald's is across the road. I'll go and eat something crap. Or I'm traveling for work. I'll just eat something crap. But now I've really changed how I eat, and I've found that's really worked for me.
Yeah, I think, I've heard different sides and everyone's different once again, but, you can either, people forget to eat if you have ADHD, or like for me, it was actually more that it overconsumed my thinking to the point where it was just like, it's exhausting how much I'm thinking about food. And I don't know if that's more of a female trait, to be honest. This is just my experience, but.
Or water, forget to drink water.
Yes, just drink water. Yes, absolutely. It depends on the zone that you're in, I think. So.
Maybe temperature too.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? If it's a cooler day, sometimes I'm like, I don't feel like water, but it's like, man, I need to have water.
Yes. Oh, yeah. And there's lots of cool apps now where people get reminders to drink water. Like there's really cool stuff around to help this sort of stuff.
It's actually interesting. Oh, sorry, you go.
I was just going to say, in line with that was also, I didn't realize I was having sensory overstimulation. Like, take me to a loud supermarket or a bright supermarket, lots of noise. Those bright lights on those new vehicles. What is with the bright lights on those vehicles that are just like? And I seem to be the only one that was like.
Sorry, which vehicles are you talking about?
Just cars that have these really intense lights.
Oh, like the I think it's like the LED. They've got LED lights in them. Like they're the newer models, and they're like fully bright, and it's like yeah. I think that's what you're talking about. Yeah.
So for me, look, I once again, and it can be very mild. It's not significant, but I can now see how that would affect my executive functioning, and I would just avoid things that involve that.
So you really struggle with the shops, is that correct?
I've never been.
I struggle with the shops.
Yeah, I've never been a big fan of shopping, and I'm now wondering whether that's just because. It's a learned behavior. I don't want to go.
But you know what, right? Like what I used to find was like, I didn't realize it until I got diagnosed, and I'm like, oh, that was probably that. When I would go to the shops and it's increasingly busy, even like the car park where you can't find a car park. It's like, why am I even here?
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like little things like that. It's just so much going on. That now I've sort of gone, okay, well, I'm going to order my shopping that I just pick it up from, like Woolworths, pick up and whatever it's called, right? Pick it up and then I'm out of there, right? Or I'll go when it's quiet and no one can annoy the crap out of me.
Yeah, I think you just kind of learn ways that work for you. And once again, thanks to COVID, there's so many other ways now to access things, like whereas before it was, not as flexible. So.
Out of curiosity as well, like, do you crave what I've found is I really crave social interaction. Like I feel like don't get me wrong, there's sometimes where I need that quiet time, but then I'm like, man, I really want to just go and hang out with some people or go and network or chat with Vicky on the phone or not do that much. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm exactly the same. I do crave that. And I think just being around other people, that's been sort of definitely a downside of the COVID situation. Obviously, we all were stuck for a while, but, even now moving forward, working from home. And so it's every now and then it'd just be nice to kind of be in a space with other people and to workshop and to talk face to face. And I think I replace that now with sometimes I just go and work in a cafe because it's the same for me. Like it's just being around the buzz of other people or just being around that. And it's like a low level noise that is really helpful. And and this is that body doubling thing. I get so much done working in that space.
Yeah.
And that could be the opposite for some people. So
sorry, do you know how to pronounce this person's name here, Vicky? I'm sorry if we can't pronounce it.
Sianabu, maybe?
Well, anyway, it's a hell of a lot of writing, but thank you so much for sharing this. It says, I'm still too scared to get diagnosed and find out if indeed, yes, I have ADHD or something else, but there is so much being said here that I can really relate to. 3 of my sisters also have similar issues. All the others are okay. We call it our dad trait. Good old dad. We talk to each other about it, and then we convince each other it's not ADHD, and we try to move on until it gets overwhelming again. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. I think probably on that, and this is each individual's choice to want to get diagnosed and all of that, but thank you so much for sharing that. And I think it was once I was starting to hang around other people who were ADHD and all that, that's what really helped me to go, you know what, I think I am going to get diagnosed, because I didn't even realize I was at first.
Yeah. Yeah, each journey is different. I was really motivated to get it just last year because it was reaching that point where I just needed to know if the way my brain was working was, because this is the work that we do, and I could just see myself in so many of the, the conversations we were having and the wonderful people that we support into work. And I think, just like I said, the COVID unraveling, and also another thing that happened, and I don't know if this is kind of spoken about a lot, but during COVID lockdown in 2021, my darling dad passed away, and so there was a significant period of loss and grief and lots of, and then sort of, a series of loss around that time that then meant that I just lost all my coping mechanisms. And it's interesting how that kind of profound loss can then lead to really the overspilling of ADHD occurred, I suppose, because I was just...
Well, I totally agree with you there. What I found, I was on my own all the time. And I found I had lost, my cousin had passed away over that period, and I think just the fact that, it was like I didn't even have the energy to say, you know what, I'm going to message Vicky, for example, and have a chat. Do you know what I mean? Because it felt like, I don't know. Well, to tell you the truth, I was waking up late in the afternoon because I was out of work. I wasn't working. So, but you know what I mean? And I just fully lost control. And it took me a good 6 months to get over it once we got out of that lockdown.
Can totally empathize with everything you're saying. And that's, it's that impact of COVID, initial impact, and then it's the constant. And people are still processing and working through all of that because of life.
It's almost scary. It's like, man, I hope we don't go back to that. I don't want to have to go back through that.
It's forever changed, humans, haven't it? So
totally.
And I think the thing that I sort of learned during that time as well about, it became really clear, was about my processing style. So I never thought much about it, but now, and in that time, I've really learned about my need to move in order to help my processing. So I became a huge advocate for walking meetings during COVID. I was the walking meeting guru. So there was at least one a day. I just needed to get out because that might have been my only time out of the house. And I now have realized that I just need, that movement is where I work best. And so now I have a standing desk and I have a treadmill under my desk, and I just don't remember the last time I sat down, to be honest. I'm always standing. And I didn't realize that that's so part of my way of thinking. I will verbal instructions, I might miss key details, and I'm definitely known for speaking without thinking sometimes. And so it, I know that now that's how my brain is working, and so I am consciously.
It's all right, Vicky. If you blurt out something that's inappropriate, I'll be like, oh, no, that's just Vicky.
We're in a safe space, aren't we? So
yeah. We've just got thousands of people listening to us right now. So
anyway, it's just been a really interesting experience. So.
Yeah, totally. But look, moving on from that, tell us about the work you're doing now and what drives your passion. So you shared a little bit about that before, but I think a big thing and why I was like, man, let's get you on, was that, I think was the work that you're currently doing, it has changed a little bit, and you really wanted to share that.
Yeah, thank you. It's a really important question because at Specialisterne, we're doing some really cool things. And I think, sometimes we've been stuck in people's minds as just doing recruitment and only working with IT organizations or to help people find IT roles. So nothing could be further from the truth. It's almost like, we're an actor that's been kind of profiled to be only working in romantic movies.
A romantic movie or a comedy or something.
No, but we, at Specialisterne, obviously that's, I think, because we had such, if we reflect back to when we first opened here in Australia, 2015, 2016, and then, beyond, we had such great success in running these hiring initiatives that was initially for autistic individuals, and now we've opened up to all neurodivergents. And so, but back then it was like groundbreaking, and this was the stuff that was then taking Australia into where the UK was, so it was this is the stuff that made the news. This is the stuff that made businesses go, hang on a second, what are we missing out on if we're not doing this? And so, that's why I think we've kind of been stuck in that because of, the name that we made for ourselves in that time. But since then, I mean, we really want to be seen as almost like trusted advisors to employers to help connect employers to to skilled talent in the neurodiverse community. And that's our job. So it's skilling up the employers to be better in terms of inclusion and understanding and making the changes that need to be made across the board to make their workplaces more neuro-inclusive, and obviously making recruitment more neuro-inclusive. But we've definitely moved well beyond the recruitment. We're finding that we're doing a lot more work in everything to do with creating neuro-inclusive workplaces. So it's, training, a lot of leadership training, because for me, I believe that's the key to success in terms of building neuro-inclusive workplaces. It's the manager, right? Like a good manager, an understanding manager will be the one that can not only create a safe and understanding place for their neurodivergent employees, but change the culture of the team and make that foster a culture of inclusion. And
understanding goes a huge way.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? Because I think that what I've seen and the problems I've seen in the past is that, because I've had people reach out to me and go, oh, look, we've got David here who's really struggling. We're thinking about we're going to have to fire him shortly. And it's like, well, hang on, let's find out what's going on with David. And then they're telling me all these bad things about David. But then I speak to David and think, David's really good. What's going on? What's the manager doing? Or what's the leadership team doing? And then you find out that all the problems are in the leadership team there.
Yeah.
So I'm just sort of going on from what you're talking about, why it's so important in regards to management and leadership.
Yeah, I've always said that the strongest indicator of success of a neurodivergent employee is an understanding manager. And, a lot of sort of managers sort of think, well, that's a lot of pressure. But actually, it doesn't cost anything extra to be understanding and empathetic. It doesn't, it's about good communication and good and good management. And those are the skills that you'd want to be having anyway as a manager. And so it's about getting better at that so that you're supporting all your employees.
But it's like planning, right? And I'm speaking because I help people like get their business plans and that ready for like, for their businesses and all of that type of stuff, right? And it's like, if you create, like, if you start a business without a business plan, for example, you've got no direction and everyone else around you's got no direction, right? But if you've got some type of, direction plan of how you're able to support not only just your neurodivergent people, but everyone there, right? Yeah. It's going to be a lot less stress. It's going to be easier for you. But trying to get that across to people sometimes is very difficult.
Yeah, and I think, one of the questions is about the challenges actually. So we'll probably come back to that, but it's definitely it's dismissed as not a priority, and that's where we're going completely wrong. A lot of people, leaders, leadership teams, and executives know it's a priority and do put things in place to make sure that we're fostering that culture of neuro.
Can I give you an example?
Yeah.
So not long ago, I was doing some work for a company. The management team kept putting off the neurodiversity training, all of that. All of these staff were coming in who were employed for this company as part of some program, right? And, I'm sitting there thinking, these people keep telling us to put off the training. They're not going to because they're too busy and all of that. And I'm like, shit's going to kick off shortly. Something's going to go wrong, and they're going to have a go at me. Sure enough, and I even told my manager, I said, look, this is going to happen. And I said, when it happens, you wait, you watch. Yeah, sure enough, it happened. And that day I pretty much went, see you later. I'm out of here. Yeah. Because I'm like, it's like, okay, well, if we're not going to support this or give us the opportunity to be able to make these changes, not necessarily huge changes, or more just training and learning, what am I even here for? You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. Absolutely. It's key. And, I think we're in Australia, we're in that sort of, a lot of organisations are building their capacity in education, but there's, so much more that we need to do. And so, in terms of the other stuff that Specialisterne does, so one of our key services, and a lot of people don't know this, I think, is workplace coaching and support. So, we have a team of amazing neurodiversity coaches, and many of them have lived experience, and they are the key. They are I think one of the most highly valued workplace adjustments and support strategies is having a coach. And, it's that external coach who's not in the business, who's not in the weeds, and can see things from a different perspective.
The outside, totally.
Yeah, and offers that from a neurodiversity expertise kind of thing. But the key difference for us is that we're just not coaching the employee, because that's we need to be coaching the manager as well, right? Because the manager is also going on a journey of understanding neurodiversity, which is what we were sort of saying before about education being key. It's okay, so how can I support this individual? How can I, give them the best tools to succeed? And so the coaching is only best done when it's for both.
Well, what we're doing with Neurodiversity Academy, and the biggest thing there is that it starts with that organization. We need to make sure that organization has the right tools, understanding at least, basic understanding it can be, and they can grow from there, I believe. Because if we just go, hey, look, we've got some neurodivergent students who want to study at your college or university, and they're like, yeah, all right, they're going to fail these people. But if we help the people who are helping the people who are the students, for example, they should succeed if they're, totally agree.
Exactly. And, as a manager myself, if I was able to get access some additional coaching in a particular area that I just needed to, it boosts your skills, not only supporting that employee, but supporting all your employees, because the skills that you learn are going to help everybody, and we hear this time and time again from managers, is that it's just, once again, it goes back to being just good practice, and it helps them to be more empathetic, more patient, more understanding. And, that's just good for everybody. And then the final thing that we do a lot of now is, like I said, we are trusted advisors. We're here to partner with organizations to take them on the journey in terms of achieving their goals, whatever it might be, to becoming neuro-inclusive workplaces. So it's things like assessing, your maturity for where you're at in terms of neuro-inclusion and diversity and inclusion in general, and giving feedback and recommendations about what to do and supporting them in that journey all the way through that, and we do
collect data on stuff like that. Are you able to go, hey, look, from implementing this, we've been able to see that you are now. So do you have that type of stuff in place, out of curiosity?
We're starting to build that kind of data. This is all new, really, so we're definitely put that sort of baseline. We're going to start to build that baseline, and then people will be able to sort of really see where they're sitting, which I think is, can be enticing.
It's valuable.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So that's largely what we do. We basically do everything, and we're here. Our goal is to help 1 million neurodivergent individuals find meaningful careers. And we do that through partnerships, through partnering with employers, through inspiring other organizations to go and do their own recruitment. And it has to be done via building those neuro-inclusive workplaces first.
Yeah, totally. I suppose it's baby steps, and, the more we do it, the better it will come. But I think that actually rolls into the next question actually really well. So in your view, how has the conversation around neurodiversity evolved over the years?
And I guess we've kind of touched on this a little bit, but it's a good question to dive deeper in. So, like I said, there was very little understanding when I first started working in this space. It really was a case of taking people on the journey right from the beginning. But those programs that we did in sort of 2006, 2007, 2008 were really paving the way. And also at the same time, Torkel Sonner, who is the thought leader behind Specialisterne. It's his, he's the founder of Specialisterne. He was in Denmark building Specialisterne at the time. So Specialisterne has been around for 20 years. And so 2004, he started, really demonstrating that autistic talent could be matched to certain skills, particularly in IT, because back then, once again, we were taking people on a journey to see the talent, and IT was the best way at the time to show that. But like I said, we've moved beyond just IT, and we work with people in every single industry. And then I think, it was that sort of movement from that. We saw the changes in Europe at the time. And like I said, we were a few years behind here in Australia. And so we've kind of brought brought Australia back up, I think, to where everybody else is in the world. I think we can see that around 2019 and 2020, what we call the Neuroadvantage movement really started to take hold. So we started to talk more about neurodiversity as a whole, as opposed to just autistic individuals, in isolation. But what we know now about autism is that it often exists in conjunction with many other neurotypes. Yeah, that's right. So the intersectionality is so common. So I'm so glad that we've, moved beyond and we're broadening our understanding. I love the word neurodiversity because to me, it's a celebratory word, and it's celebrating the human experience and how diverse we all are and how wonderful that is and how we need that diversity to bring value to organizations, And so I think we're now seeing that. The shift for me, I suppose, was when we stopped, we've always kind of cold called and chased organizations and got people involved in that conversation. But the flip was obviously when organizations started to more often call us and say, I get it, I want in, because I see the talent that we're missing out on. I see the barriers in our recruitment process. I see we're not supporting this incredible cohort of people. What can we do? And so that's been the shift.
Can I ask one thing on that, right? So I was actually speaking to someone about this the other day. You know how we're seeing over in the United States how they're doing a big DE&I cull almost, right? What are your thoughts on that? Because and I'll sort of say myself, to tell you the truth, for me personally, I'm not oh, what that's so wrong. For me, what I'm actually seeing and reading is that, organizations who want to, be inclusive and all that are still going to be inclusive.
Yes.
But the ones that, because I've seen some big organizations like Disney, for example, they've pulled that. I think they'd pulled out of their DE&I or cut it back or something like that. Yeah. And, I think in a way it's almost a good thing. And I'm saying it in a positive way, because what we're going to start seeing is the organizations who truly do support DE&I, for example, compared to ones who are just doing it because they have to. Yeah. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, well, I have so many thoughts on this, but, we've only got a short space of time.
Yeah, we only got about 15 minutes, actually.
I obviously feel very passionately about this, because you can see from what I've said so far, this is, I'm so passionate about this space. But I will say this, I think I agree that organizations who already know, thankfully, like I said, this neurodiversity movement took hold about 5 or 6 years ago. And thankfully, we're already there. So therefore, this kind of conversation that's happening over here won't impact the organizations that are doing good already and that know that they need to do it. And there's so many that are out there that are just going to continue on with their agenda, regardless of the noise that's being made. Yeah. Unfortunately, though, obviously, there's this kind of othering rhetoric which is taking place, and it's damaging, obviously, to the work that people are doing in this space, and it minimizes the incredible talents and values that anyway, the whole human experience, the whole human race brings. And so we in this space, I know a lot of diversity and inclusion advocates and neuro-inclusion advocates are, just charging forward, because there's been many times in history, I suppose, where people have tried to stop the work that's happening here, and
it almost makes it more powerful.
And diversity in general. Yeah, that's right. And so it's actually just, I think urged a lot of people to kind of to do more, and we are so grateful to hear organizations are saying, we're moving forward with this.
Yeah. And I think that's what I was sort of getting at, was you're going to find that organizations are going to go, because I'm pretty sure you're the same. I don't follow a crowd. I'm like, no, screw you. I'm going to do, and I'm pretty sure there's some big organizations out there who probably are that. They're unique and all of that type of stuff.
Correct. Yeah. And that's why Specialisterne, we connect with those organizations who get it and want to come on the journey, and those organizations will continue, especially in here in Australia, but we know globally that a lot of organizations won't be deterred by the noise that's happening.
But did you know what else I did read? And I can't quote it or anything, so I could be completely wrong. But they did say that, they did say that there might be some parts of DE&I that might not be as focused on as what it has been in the past, but they may be looking more into, say, things like neurodiversity and some of these other, like accessibility and things like that may become more of a thing.
Yeah, look.
Well, I don't know. I can't quote what I'm reading, but I've read it somewhere.
Yeah, I don't know anything about that, but all I do know is that separate to that, and what I've been thinking, and a lot of people have been talking about recently, well, maybe I'm sort of seeing that, but I believe that neurodiversity does not sit in as a D&I initiative. It is everyone. So 1 in 5.
Well, true. Yeah, true.
Statistic for neurodiversity prevalence, and that's sort of becoming more of a global statistic, but we certainly refer to it here in Australia. And I think, we know that means that it's everybody. So every team, every manager, every department will need to be coming on board with how we work in a more neuro-inclusive way in general. And so therefore it's not kind of a budget that sits in D&I, or it's not an initiative. It's an everyday practice. It sits with HR. It sits with, it's part of every policy and every process. So hopefully this kind of, will help us move more in that way, as opposed to, just on D&I.
Totally. So moving on from that, and I think this sort of works into, but we seem to be flowing with it really well, Vicky. You know what I mean? We've got this down pat, So what are some of the challenges you've encountered along the way?
Yeah, and I think I've definitely listed some of them so far. So like I said, I think number 1 is always lack of understanding. That is the biggest barrier, because if you have no understanding, then you have no, or at least willingness to understand. That stops.
I like that one, what you've just said, the willingness to understand. That's one of the challenges I've faced.
Because you need to be open to a totally, like a different way of recruiting, leaning into what that person's experience is without bias or without sort of stereotyping or assumptions, because we're talking about hidden neurotypes, right? So every individual that you're working with, we don't know potentially what's going on for them. And so that's the challenge when managers, colleagues, whatever, interviewers, whoever you might be, we make assumptions based on what we see, as opposed to the whole person and what's going on for them. So unconscious bias, stereotypes, all of that continues to be the biggest barriers. And then leaning into what we've just said before, going back to that, lack of investment, I suppose. It tends to be deprioritized, I suppose. But like what I said before, we believe that it is the number 1 priority in terms of, meeting business objectives. The bottom line, neurodiversity is key to everything. And you will, as a business, you get more innovation, you get more.
Sorry, can I ask, is there someone like yelling out the window near your joint?
Oh, sorry. I think it's young children. I'll close the window.
Oh, is it? No, it's all cool. I was just like, is that my house or is that your joint? Okay, no, it's all cool. It's all cool.
Sorry.
Being ADHD, obviously hearing people like in the background, it's like, what the hell is that?
I will close my window. Just hang on a second.
Yeah, too easy. Oh, my God. Yeah, I don't know about others, but when I hear little things, it like sidetracks me.
Yes, no, and it's there's lots of kids in this area, which is great. But yes, thank you.
Oh, that's good. That's good. No problem.
Yeah, and so then I think the other challenge, like I said, lack of investment, budgetary redirection or reprioritization, and one thing that's interesting fact from our perspective at Specialisterne, the lead time that I suppose it takes from having the first meeting or the key, that really big discussion where you can see the cogs turning and organizations or whoever it might be in that meeting realizing how important this is and how vital it is. But from that, it can still be a year or more to actually then getting a contract signed or moving ahead with the initiatives that they know are imperative. So we see that as a constant challenge, and that's what we're always trying to work on is helping organizations get to that point and then move in that direction, as to make the changes that need to be made and to take them on that journey. And that's what we sort of facilitate, I guess.
No, awesome stuff. Now, on the flip side, what have been some of the most positive and rewarding experiences for you?
I love this question because it made me sort of reflect on
We've spoken about the negative stuff. Now let's talk about the positive.
Yeah, look, I think obviously for me, I mean, seeing the journey of so many individuals that we've supported over the years who not only secure a job, because for me, I think the word job is not what it is important, but we're about careers. It's helping people connect with, because a lot of neurodivergent individuals may be listening or that we know are working for sure, but is it in a job that meets your skill sets and where you're valued and that is, going to challenge you and help you have career progression? That's what we're about. And so it's finding the right team for them and the values that values them and that they can contribute in a meaningful way, because once again, every human deserves to have that. And so, we've seen that happen so many times over the years that there's too many to list. But that for me is that connection. And you see the long-term impact of a career is obviously invaluable. And that's, yeah.
And I think probably one of the coolest things would be seeing people starting, for example, growing, developing in their career, going on even further, but going on their own journey.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? I think it's in there. And if I look back at what I was like when I was younger, it was very difficult to take those first steps to really build my career. But once I sort of was like, hang on, I've got this, there's no stopping me type of thing. And I think I've seen that in other people. It's like, man, this guy's killing it now. This woman's killing it. Yes.
Yeah. And that's it. And it's connecting. And so, yeah, I mean, there's so many individuals who, yes, they've gone on their own path and you can see that they're finally getting that value and just then the ripple effect on the rest of their life. Like we've seen some individuals go and buy their own houses, whereas before they weren't even able to find work. And just being a taxpayer is such a gift for a lot of people who were never able to achieve that before. So that is part of the most rewarding. But then obviously, I think similarly, the journey of the manager and the organization is actually not talked about enough. So I've seen some managers who take part in our, recruitment programs, for example. This is, we've heard some managers say that hiring neurodivergent employees, this particular employee, such and such, has been the best thing that they've done in their career because they were taken on that journey of perhaps apprehension. Yes, you're kind of helping me see how to do recruitment differently. I've never done recruitment differently, or I've always managed in this way. So, and then they say, I get it and I appreciate it and I want to come on the journey, and they do. And then the impact and the flip for them in terms of the value to the team, to obviously to the role, but to the entire team, to the organization, and to them as a manager. So, if you're in that position as a manager or a decision maker, this is the impact, you can
you're
see.
Changing people's lives.
You're changing people's lives. And then for you as an individual, you're bringing more meaning to the work that you do on a daily basis. And this is where it goes back to those challenges. We get deprioritized in terms of the importance of this work, but there's nothing more important because it's about the individual life, but then also the impact that you can have in your individual role in an organization. So we need to, why aren't more people doing it? We want to see people go on this journey, and, we're here to help do that.
And I will say something else on that, right? Because let's say, right, you've helped this individual, you're a manager, you're a leader, you've inspired this person, they've grown and developed, they've got all these great skills, and then let's say they're now a manager and leader who are now influencing other people. That's what those people have given to those people who have grown and developed. They're inspiring not just those people, but they're inspiring other people through the people they've inspired. If that makes sense.
Yeah. But that's it. And it gives me goosebumps when you say that, because it's the ripple effect, right? The ripple effect of one small act. So that manager that I'm particularly remembering, he could have just chosen not to because it wasn't in his daily, priorities, or it was taking too much time to focus on the bottom line and all this sort of stuff. There's always, something pulling us away. But the ripple effect of that one action of, supporting that person well so that they thrive in their career, or hiring that person, or training your team, the ripple effect of that training for everybody, it's invaluable.
It is. It definitely is. I was going to build something off from that, but I completely forgot. But no, it's all cool. It's all cool. It'll probably come back to me. But yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's, helping, sometimes I look at it, it's like, man, and it doesn't matter if you're neurodivergent or not, but like creating, being a leader to create other leaders. I think that's what I'm really big on. But you know what actually blows me away? I do get a lot of people coming up to me going, oh, man, you're so inspiring. You inspire me, man. And I don't even realize because I'm just being me. Do you know what I mean? And it almost makes me embarrassed sometimes. But I think this is the key thing. If someone can take away just something little, that can make such a huge difference for that person in the long run.
Yes. And, that's the power of what we're doing here, because it will help, obviously, that person for, as a lifelong impact. But then the ripple effect of, we know the data and the stats around working in a diverse team and a neurodiverse team is higher morale and, better communication and, people stay longer and all that sort of stuff. And so the data tells the story that if you create this culture, foster an inclusive workplace within your team, or if you have more, a department or whatever it might be, or even just in the way that you work with your colleagues, that will have a ripple effect on everyone.
Totally. We are getting close to the end, so we'll get through this question. So what do you think needs to happen next in the neurodiversity employment space?
It's a big question. I love it though. So I think, look, obviously we've spoken a lot about awareness. There's a lot of education happening. There needs to be more, but we need to go from beyond just awareness raising to embedding neuro-inclusion into policies. Like I said, all leadership, performance frameworks. And at the end of all of my training, I give, I like to sort of think that there's a bit of a call to action or something people can go away and do, because education is achieving one objective of raising awareness and helping people work better together. But, what next? How can we keep pushing the needle to create truly neuro-inclusive workplaces? And I think that brings it back to involving the voices of neurodivergent individuals in those decisions. And so some organisations have ERGs, for example, but, that's critical, whatever that might look like, involving people with lived experience and including their voices in the changes or the work that you're doing.
Yeah, no.
And I think there's a lot of talk, and obviously for me, being a neurodivergent leader, a lived experience leadership, and using your voice as a neurodivergent leader to start the conversation and to make it a comfortable place where people can come forward and feel safe to disclose if they want to, but removing the stereotype of neurodiversity in leadership, because that's, this is the stuff that will once again create a ripple effect and inspire others to, use their voices. So we want to have more leaders speak up and create this culture of change.
Can I add on to that in a way?
Yeah.
I'm glad you let me do that.
Oh.
That made you joking. I'm just taking the piss. Another big thing I would say is definitely the utilization of technology. I think for me personally, technology has just completely changed my life. I think how you were talking before about your attention to detail, you can miss that. A lot of the time now, I will run things through like, Chat GPT or whatever like that, or even if I'm wanting to write a blog, for example, right? I know exactly what I want in that blog, so I will just put everything I want into that blog. It won't be in order or anything like that. Then I go, turn this into a blog for me, and boom. And it makes my life so much easier. I don't have to ring up my mom and go, hey, Mom, can you check this? Oh, what the hell? It's 10 o'clock at night. You know what I mean? And I think this is, but the thing I'm sort of getting at is that what I'm finding with some workplaces is they're often not utilizing the technology that is available for their employees. And it's like, and they're worried about like, cyber threats and all that. And it's like, well, start looking into it, because this is productivity that you're losing because you're not utilizing that technology.
Yes, exactly. I mean, there's so many. We can't list all the apps and all the tools that are around.
No way.
We're so lucky to live in this space and time that is enabling people to work through some of the challenges that they were typically struggling with behind the scenes before, or and so as you say, like just the amount of work that went into that. But we are very lucky to be in that space and time to aid where the direction of where we're heading in terms of.
Well, I feel so free. I feel free now,
I feel that blockage. I totally feel the same.
Yeah. I
do want to say one more thing in terms of the direction we're heading. I think, like I alluded to before, organizations are slowing down on those recruitment campaigns that we used to run because people want to workplaces want to set up neuro-inclusive workplaces. And that is the way. So you've got to build it. You've got to build it before they come, right? You've got to build the environment so that people enter a workplace that is safe and understanding. But I will say this, on the opposite side to that thinking, those programs that we used to run, like we said, it produced a lot of data. It produced a lot of, it pushed the needle in this space because it was well covered. There was a lot of talk about it. It got organizations changing their mindset and shift their thinking, and it made it a priority. And it demonstrates the impact at your organization and at your team about the impact of not only neuro-inclusive hiring, but neuro-inclusion in general. And so, we'd be encouraging organizations to go back to thinking about the benefits of proactively hiring neurodivergent individuals, because obviously, once again, there's that ripple effect, but you've got that data at the end.
And can I say one more thing on that, right? Yeah. If places are sort of like stepping away from what you used to do, for example, and they're more going, hey, look, we want to be more inclusive and implement, be more inclusive in our hiring methods, stuff like that, you've done your job.
Yes.
You know what I mean? You've done your job.
Yes,
you know what I mean? And that's great if they're doing that.
Yeah. I think we're heading in a direction that's moving away from that, but I would like to see that sort of come back, and because the data demonstrates the impact for the team, for the organization, and obviously the individual. You get the training whilst you do that. So there's so many outcomes that come from that initiative. But I said, I think we're heading in a direction of leaders paving the way in terms of using their voices.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah, lived experience.
That's what it's all about.
And bringing employers on board to make the changes that need to be made.
Totally. Vicky, you are awesome. Thank you so much for joining us today. Now, if people want to connect with you and be like, man, I want to get on the Vicky Little train right here, where can they find you?
So obviously on LinkedIn, you can find me on LinkedIn, but our website, specialisterne.com.au, we've got some great case studies on there. Come and have a look to see the work that we've done in terms of not only the individuals who we've supported into work, but the employers that we've worked with. There's some great docu-series on there called Come As You Are. If you want to watch something, if you're more visual, jump on there and have a look, and then, reach out to us to have a chat.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming along. And look, for anyone who's been listening, if you haven't already done so, please subscribe, like, and follow to all of our social media pages, or check us out on anywhere you listen to your podcast. Thank you very much for Vicky Little for joining us today. My name's Will Wheeler. Till next time. No problem.
Thanks so much for having me.